Welcome back, guys. On today's video, we continue on with the Scale Racing channel, Skylines versus Supra 70-gram mail-in modified race. Today, we continue on with the Super bracket. 29 of the fastest Supras you're going to see on the quarter-mile drag strip. They're all loaded up and ready to go in the seated order that they qualified in. We've got Blue Line Racing, who took the overall TQ with the first round bye. Elevation Diecast over here with a first round bye. Bavaria Diecast finishing third overall in the qualifying. He gets himself a first round bye as well. The rest of these guys are going to have to go through round one. We're racing them two at a time. Heads up down this quarter-mile drag strip. Fastest pass after lane swaps will advance that car on to the next round. And for the final race, I want to see best 3 out of 5. Winner of the Supra race will then advance on to face the winner of the Skyline bracket. Let's go ahead and get these cars rolling. First two cars up for round number one. We've got Hot Nuts Racing in lane number 1 versus 4114 Racing in lane number 2. All right, here we go. Wow, not a bad race. 22:59 across the board with the nod going to 4114 Racing. Not a bad way to start it off. Let's see if either of these two can beat a 22:59. 22:55 to a 22:65. Hot Nuts Racing with a solid second lap is going to send him on to the next round. Next up, we've got Diecast Show Customs with his Jada Supra in lane number 1 and Arlo Racing with his Hot Wheels Supra in lane 2. Ready, steady. 22:50 to a 22:78. Laser swap, 22:50 is the mark. 22:45 to a 22:77. Diecast Show Customs going on to round number 2. Staged and ready, we've got Milestone Diecast Racing with his Matchbox Supra in lane number 1 and Dutch Clutch Diecast Racing, his Hot Wheels Supra in lane 2. And go. 22:49 to a 22:87. Lane swappage, 22:49 is the mark. 22:46 to a 22:91. Milestone Diecast Racing sending his Matchbox Supra on to round number 2. Next up, we've got Kai with Umiri Racing with his Jada Supra in lane number 1 and Cash Money Boys with his Matchbox Supra in lane 2. Ready, steady. 22:39 to a 23:11. Laser swap, 22:39 is the time to beat. 22:34 to a 23:25. So Kai from Umiri Racing sending his car on to the next round. Next up in the blocks, a couple old school Hot Wheels Supras. We've got DXP Diecast Racing in lane number 1 and Redline Salvage Inc. in lane number 2. On your marks, get set, go. 22:55 to a 22:74. Lane swappage, 22:55 is the mark. Another 22:55 to a 22:70. DXP Diecast Racing sending his car on to the next round. Next up, we got a couple of Hot Wheels 2020 Toyota GR Supras. We've got Captain K Racing in lane number 1 and BD Racing in lane 2. Ready, steady. 22:51 to a 22:79. Laser swap, 22:51 is the mark. Better, 22:48 to a 22:77. And Captain K Racing advances his GR Supra on to round number 2. Last pair on the left-hand side of the bracket, we've got Northern Roads Racing with his Matchbox Supra in lane number 1 and NZ Racing with his Hot Wheels Supra in lane 2. On your marks, get set, go. Northern Roads, 22:43 to a 23:14. Lane swappage, 22:43 is the mark. 2248 to a 2291. Northern Roads Racing sends his matchbox on to round number 2. Moving over to the right-hand side of the bracket, we've got Uncle Elvis in his Hot Wheels Supra in lane 1, and Wild Willie G with his GR Supra in lane 2. Yep. Pretty good race. It's a 2257 to a 2262. Lane swappage, 2257 is the time to beat. 2259 to a 2277. And Uncle Elvis moves on to the next round. Pair of Hot Wheels Supras up in the blocks next. We got Variant Skunk Works in lane number 1 and Dog Squab Racing in lane number 2. Here we go. 2251 to a 2272. Laser swap 2251, the time to beat. Pretty good race though. 2256 to a 2271. And Variant Skunk Works sending his Supra on to round number 2. Here we've got Jason from Umiri Racing with his Jada Supra in lane number 1 and Dubious Diecast Racing with his Hot Wheels Supra in lane 2. Let's see it. 2246 to a 2288. Lane swappage, 2246 is the mark. 2248 to a 2286. Jason from Umiri Racing sending his GR Supra on to the next round. Staged and ready, we got Puffs Racing with his GR Supra in lane number 1 versus Knobby Ridge Dragway with his Hot Wheels Supra in lane number 2. On your marks, get set, go. 2255 to a 2268. Lane swappage, 2255 is the mark. It's a pretty good race. 2259 to a 2265. Puffs Racing takes them both, sending his car on to the next round. Next up, we got Hot Rods Customs in lane number 1 with his 2020 GR Supra versus Chase Family Racing with his Matchbox Toyota Supra Turbo. Here we go. 2252 to a 2275. Lane swappage, 2252 is the time to beat. 2257 to a 2282. And Hot Rods Custom sending his car on to the next round. The last matchup of round number 1 belongs to Flips Racing in lane number 1 and RC Addicts in lane number 2, both driving the Hot Wheels Supra. And go. 2236 to a 2292. Laser swap, 2236 is the time to beat. 2238 to a 2293. Flips Racing takes them both. He's moving on to round number 2. Round 1 in the books, the 16 fastest, moving on to the next round. And I have a feeling that times will be tightening up just a little bit. Round number 2 is going to start us off with our top qualifier in lane number 1. It's Blue Line Racing with his Matchbox Toyota Supra Turbo versus Hot Nuts Diecast Racing with his Hot Wheels Toyota Supra. On your marks, get set, go. 2224 to a 2252. Lanes are swapped with 2224 being the time to beat. 2227 to a 2253. Blue Line Racing takes them both. He's going on to round number 3. Next up, Diecast Show Customs in lane 1 and Milestone Diecast Racing in lane 2. On your marks, get set. Tight race. 2246 to a 2248. Lane swappage, 2246 is the mark. Another good race. 2250 to a 2251. Diecast Show Customs takes them both. He's going on to round 3. Staged and ready, it's Kai with Umi Re Racing in lane 1 and DXP Diecast Racing in lane 2. Here we go. Not a bad race. 2240 to a 2255. Laser swap 2240 is the mark. Good race. 2240 again to a 2253. And Kai from Umi Re Racing advances to the next round. Next up, we got Captain K Racing in lane number 1 and Northern Roads Racing in lane 2. Ready, steady. Good race. It's a 2247 to a 2252. Laser swapped with a 2247 being the time to beat. 2248 to a 2254. Northern Roads Racing takes them both. He's advancing to round 3. Next matchup gives us Elevation Diecast Racing in lane number 1 and Uncle Elvis in lane 2. Let's see it. 2242 to a 2262. Laser swapped with 2242 being the mark. Better 2234 to a 2257. Elevation Diecast Racing takes them both. He moves on to round 3. Next up, we got Variant Skunk Works in lane number 1 and Jason from Umi Re Racing, lane 2. Ready, steady. Come from behind victory, 2246 to a 2251. Lane swappage, 2246 is the mark. Another pass on the flat, 2241 to a 2256. And Jason from Umi Re Racing moves on to the next round. Next up in lane number 1, full of character, it's Bavarian Diecast Racing with his Matchbox Toyota Supra versus Puffs Racing in his GR Supra in lane 2. Ready, steady. 2233 to a 2253. Laser swap to 2233 being the time to beat. Even better, 2231 to a 2254. Bavarian Diecast Racing takes them both. He moves on to round number 3. Last matchup of round number 2 gives us Hot Rods Customs in lane number 1 and Flips Racing in lane 2. Yep. Pretty good race. 2238 to a 2250. Laser swap, 2238 is the mark. 2241 to a 2254. Flips takes them both. This is the last car moving on to round 3. Round 2 in the books. Winners on the inside, losers on the outside. Round 3 matchups begin with Blue Line Racing in lane 1 and Diecast Show Customs in lane 2. Ready, steady. 2224 to a 2245. Laser swap with a 2224 being the time to beat. Another 2224 to a 2250. And Blue Line sends his Supra on to the semifinals. Next up, Kai from Umi Re Racing in lane 1 and Northern Roads Racing in lane 2. And this should be a good race. 2238 to a 2247. Laser swap, 2238 is the mark. Good race. 2237 to a 2246. Kai from Umi Re takes them both, sending his car to the semifinals. Moving over to the right-hand side of the bracket, we've got Elevation Diecast Racing in lane 1 versus Jason from Umi Re Racing in lane 2. Ready, steady. Good race. 2238 to a 2239. Nice. Laser swap. Can Umi Re pull off an upset and beat a 2238? Let's find out. 22.36 to a 22.38. Hero run on the second pass is going to let Jason from Umiri Racing send his car to the semifinals. And the last matchup for round number 3 is going to have Bavarian Diecast Racing in lane number 1 and Flips Racing in lane 2. Here we go. Good race, 22.28 to a 22.38. Bavarian not making it easy on Flips. He's going to have to crack off better than 22.28 to go into the semis. He's not going to get it. 22.33 to a 22.38. Bavarian Diecast Racing takes them both. He's moving on to the semifinals. Round 3 in the books. Semifinal matchup. Semifinals begin with Blue Line Racing in lane number 1 and Kai from Umiri Racing in lane 2. On your marks, get set, go. 22.25 to a 22.39. Laser swap, Kai needs to beat a 22.25 to go to the final. It's not going to happen. 22.27 to a 22.35. Blue Line takes them both, sending his Matchbox Supra to the final race. And for the second semifinal race, we couldn't have 2 cars that are more different. We've got Jason from Umiri Racing in lane number 1 and Bavarian Diecast Racing in lane 2. On your marks, get set. Good race. 22.34 to a 22.38. Laser swap, 22.34 is the time that Umiri needs to beat to go to the finals. Otherwise, it's Bavarian. Oh, good run. 22.32 to a 22.38. Bavarian Diecast takes them both. He's moving on to the final race. Race final matchup looks like this. But first, let's see what happens down here. Father-son duo up in the blocks. We've got Kai from Umiri Racing in lane number 1 and Jason from Umiri Racing in lane 2, fighting it out for the last spot on the podium. On your marks, get set. Good race, 22.40 to a 22.42. Laser swap, 22.40 is the mark. 22.39 across the board, with the nod going to Kai by an unknown 10 thousandths, taking the number 3 spot on the podium. How fitting. On to the race final. We got Blue Line Racing in lane number 1 and Bavarian Diecast Racing in lane number 2. Remember, I want to see best 3 out of 5. We'll keep swapping lanes until we get it. Take us there. Good race, 22.24 to a 22.7. Blue Line up 1. Laser swapped. Even tighter race, 22.25 to a 22.25, with the nod going to Blue Line by an unknown 10 thousandths. Great race. Laser swapped one more time. Is Blue Line going to put a fork in it, or does Bavarian Diecast have something to say? Looks like Blue Line's putting a fork in it. 22.23 to a 22.28. So Blue Line taking the overall win out of the Supra bracket. He'll be going on to see the winner of the Skyline bracket. Congratulations on the win. Big congratulations going out to Bavarian Diecast Racing with an exceptionally fast car. Nice second place finish. All right, here's our podium for the Supra leg of the race. Blue Line Racing taking the overall win. Bavarian Diecast Racing taking second. And Kai from Umiri Racing coming in third. Congratulations to all of you. And again, thank you all for participating who sent in cars. You didn't make it on the podium. Keep on working. It'll happen. Trust me. That's all I got for you on this one. The very next video will be the Skyline bracket and the final. Hope you guys enjoyed the racing. If you hadn't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. Make sure you ring that bell. That way you're not left in the dust on future uploads. Like, share, comment, and until next time, y'all stay healthy, have fun racing.